First, we want to talk about Donald Rumsfeld, the former defense secretary who died yesterday, according to his doctors. He died of a blood cancer called multiple myeloma. Now, the Wall Street Journal editorial board says few men have had more consequential careers in public or private life than Donald Rumsfeld. Here at Newsmax earlier today, former colleagues called him brilliant, fierce, and driven. Lawmakers remember Rumsfeld as a man of honor and conviction. He served 3 presidents, was the defense secretary twice, his death drawing both praise, though, and condemnation. Rumsfeld, of course, was one of the architects of the Iraqi invasion of 2003 and the war that followed. And many today are taking the opportunity to slam both Rumsfeld and the Bush administration for their foreign policy failures. Now, we can attribute some of that animosity today to the fact that while he was defense secretary under President Bush, Rumsfeld had a certain way with the media. He often beat them at their own game and got them to chase their tails. Back in 2002, he was asked about the lack of evidence between al-Qaeda, other terror groups, and the Iraqi regime. Here's what he said.
As we know, there are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Excuse me, but is this an unknown unknown?
I'm not.
Several unknowns, and I'm just wondering if this is an unknown.
I'm not going to say which it is.
Well, about 10 years later, I had the chance to interview Rumsfeld myself. We did talk about the foreign policy failures of the George W. Bush administration and the Obama administration, but we also talked to him about the origin of some of those famous phrases he used to turn all the time, like knowns and unknowns. He called them Rumsfeld's rules, which he later published in a book. You seem to be a creature of habit, like the note cards that you always carry around. Is that something that's innate in your character, or is that something that you've had to learn along the way?
See, I still do it to this day. My mother was a school teacher. She talked me into making a note if I didn't understand a word or I had an interesting thought that I heard from somebody. And I've been doing it most of my life. And I just decided to pull them all together and do what President Ford once suggested. He named them Rumsfeld's rules when he heard me talking about some of these things. And people have asked for copies, so I decided to go ahead and write them up.
Well, Rumsfeld's legacy and career as a defense secretary and a public official, controversial, sure. But there was no doubt he had a way with words and a way with people. And one of my favorite quotes of his is this: if you are not criticized, you may not be doing much. Donald Rumsfeld was 88 years old.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.